Hello there, it's Fiona from Weekly Sewing Bee. So today I am going to make a pumpkin suit. Little legs, I know. Yeah, easy enough. Not particularly well drawn, but it's an outfit probably for a boy of about 7. Okay, so yes, forget the drawing. Okay, what I have here is I have a layer of wadding, I have a layer of my orange fabric, and I'm going to line it with a layer of white sheeting. Now you can line it with whatever you like. I have white sheeting, so I'm going to line it with that. And what I'm going to do is I've laid this all out neatly so that I don't have to sort of fuff around on the camera, is I'm going to sew the lining, the outer, and then the wadding. Now I'm going to sew the wadding on top so that I've got everything folded in nice and seamly. And I'm going to use a rectangle, and the sizes we need are the widest part, so in this case the shoulders, and then we need 2, divide that in half, and then that half we divide into a third. No, okay, yes, so the widest part of the shoulders. Now you can either do the depth as the height you need on the child, on Outshot, or you can do it half the circle minus about a third or a sixth of the circle. So the answer is 7 along and 3 down. Now I would say that this is probably 60 centimetres. And I'm going down by 2.5. So yeah, and all I'm going to do is literally this rectangle, this big rectangle, I'm going to sew 90% round so that I can turn it inside out. Okay, I'll be back. Hi, so welcome back. So what we're left with really now is the piece of cloth to work with. So it's a bit of a rectangle, a bit longer than it is down. That's so that we can get the pumpkin shape, and it's not sewn in here. So the choices that we have now, we can, if we've got our little boy, we can make a pumpkin that goes below the arms, and in a way I think that's a lot easier, and then he can wear a t-shirt easily enough. Or we can make a pumpkin that goes over his arms. Now it is a bit more complicated, and I will talk you through how to do that. That's fine. Okay, so what we need now is we need to do our stripes, we need to do our face. Now I've chosen to do quite a happy face just because it's for a child. So if we turn those over, then he's got quite a happy face, or like that. It's quite angry face. So, you know, it's really up to you. Okay, lovely. So we've done that, done that, done that. Now you can actually sew the face on before you start. It's entirely up to you. So, if we were going to make armholes, then what I would do is I would do a couple of stitches along there, and this bit that's open, I would cut that angle off, yeah? And then I would fold these over and then seam them up. And then on this side, brutally, I know, brutally, I would cut this side off. Just tuck them in so that you don't see the padding, and then over sew, because we're going to be over sewing this anyway. And then a couple of stitches there just to leave it open for the head. Now if we're doing it under the arm, then we need a way to support it. I've got ribbon, and we would just do a couple of stitches either side just to support it. So what we need to do now is we need to make this square into a circle. I'm going to do it with elastic, and I'm not going to brutally cut it. So now, rather than cut the elastic first of all, actually I'm going to do the elastic last, sorry. I am thinking as I'm going. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the face on. So, the middle of one of your halves. Now, because it's random, we can either just do it, or we can spend half an hour thinking about it and pinning it. It's entirely up to you. You know, don't be either way. It's one of those things. If you leave it to chance, it can go terribly wrong, or it can go terribly right. So now the nice thing about flat felt is, when I say some fabrics are easy to sew, well, this is quite easy to sew. Look, you know, it's not gone anywhere. This one's fallen off, but it's not gone anywhere. So rather than turn the whole quilt round, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the fabric. You're going to need a little bit more of the top thread, because otherwise it's going to pull. Put it down to join the last load of stitches and lower the needle, and that way you don't get that sort of snag thing. And then I'm just going to join it up. So then again, I'm going to lift the needle. I'm going to give myself a little bit more thread just to work with. Not going to worry about the bobbin, that'll just unwind. And there we go. And then I can lower that down, and then it should just sew. Now, it is important that you keep this flat as possible. I know I don't seem to have been adjusting it, but what I am actually doing is I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. So, okay. So what happened then is I didn't lower my needle. My thread got a bit tight, and it complained. You know, it said, "Look, that's not right. Treat me with respect." So I've lost my bottom thread. I'm just going to take it out. I just had a visit from my son as well, and he said, "You alright?" And I was going, "No, it's not the right weather for quilting, it really isn't. Quite hot in here." Okay, so we've got that all sorted now. And then I'm going to put it back in, and this time I'm going to do what I say rather than what I do, and that is lower the needle. Okay. So, and then I need to go down and do the mouth as well. And all these loose ends, they're going to need to be trimmed off. I'm just lining it up so it's not too lopsided. There we go, just follow it round. Now, to do the ridges, we can either do lines of fabric folded over, which looks really nice, or we could just do a couple of lines of stitches. It really depends how dramatic you want it. Now, if you have a contrasting piece of fabric, then that would be great. What I mean is slightly different shade of orange, maybe same shade with a different texture, or we could use more ribbons, or what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to sew them on. I'm just going to quilt it like I would a quilt. So, and there's a lot to be said for even changing the colour of your top stitch, because at the minute I'm sewing it in orange, but I could quite easily either put a red or a green thread in. So I'm just pulling my top thread again, just to get it happy, Make sure everything's flat before I start, and then away I go. I'm watching that my foot doesn't push away my felt, so as it had. Okay, so that's that done. That's that job done. Now, next job is take the quilt from out of the sewing machine. All these threads that we've left because we've just sewn right through, obviously catching in. Alright, what I need to do now is I need to sew up this side. So I've got the sewn edge, that's the back of the face with all the threads. I'm going to take this side so that I'm laying it on top. Now, there's no reason why your sewing machine can't do this, no reason at all, but it's important to remember, even though the foot is not going to go down, that we push the lever at the back of the foot down. This is because if that lever's up, then it disconnects the bobbin. So I've got my open end on top. I'm going to sew up the sewn ends first. I'm going to leave just a little flash of the lining. I'm going to make sure that I'm not catching anything at the back. And then when I come to this bit, I'm going to fold and push that in and push that together so that these ends meet. So there's a little bit of puckering, but I can just keep an eye on that. Stab it with a pin. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on sewing. Obviously, be aware of all this and all this and all this. Now this technique you wouldn't be able to do with a small size. We'd have to just fold it over and sew it like that rather than sew it like that. Okay, but it's all about getting it tubular. So we're just coming up to the top, make sure it's all tidy, and then I can finish this line of stitches. Okay, so that's that. It's not too hard. I now have to pull this all through so that I can get it out of the machine because it's all caught up. So yeah, but this is just brute strength. Alright, so now we have a tube with a pumpkin, and the next job is to sew elastic around the top and to sew the ribbon on. So I have my elastic here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at where I would put the first shoulder strap. Okay, so what I've got here is my quilt, as it were, for want of a better word. I've got my ribbon going at a right angle, and I've got my elastic. All I'm doing now is I'm securing it. I'm not doing anything other than securing it, just for 4 or 5 stitches. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want life complicated for myself. Okay, so I guess that's a good point to switch off the camera if I've got to thread a needle. Hi, so okay, I have made a good start. I've got my 2 pieces of ribbon coming off my piece of elastic. So we can, sorry about the vertigo guys, I'm going to move your camera slightly. Okay, I've marked with a pin opposite the first of the ribbons to be sewn back in. I've got my elastic on stretch and I'm sewing to that point. I'm going to take this piece of elastic and I'm going to sew it round. I should be able to do it around the back. I just don't want to twist in it. So now I'm holding my elastic taut, I've placed my ribbon under the elastic and then I'm continuing to sew to my next ribbon really, and I can mark that with a pin because it's just opposite and that's the line. Alrighty, so elastic, complete stretch, fabric, hold it straight. Now you don't have to hold it from the back and sort of slightly pull it. In a way it's just a bad habit because it takes so long. Okay, so up to my pin and stretch and place and sew. Now your sewing machine doesn't really like sewing on elastic, it really doesn't. So I'm going to take my ribbon, make sure it's straight, bend it round, and then I can place it under my elastic, and there we go. And then pull it tight. There we go. So that's that. I've done the elastic at the bottom, which is exactly the same technique but without placing the ribbon. And now it really is taking shape. What we have to do, so let's have a look at it. Get rid of that piece of elastic, we don't need it. Get rid of the sewing machine. So there we are. It's really taking shape and we've got our ribbons just to hold it on. Now what we need to do is we need to sew this top corner to this top corner to another piece of ribbon just to give it a bit of body, yeah? And the same again on the other side so that it will give it a much more dumpy shape. Now as I said before, I'm not going to sew ribbons over the top, but I am going to top stitch some lines, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the whole quilt under and I'm going to do a line of stitches down all the way to the bottom, going over the face, and then I'm going to do another line, and then I'm going to do another line. So yeah, same as before when we sewed up the side, we've got to watch for all this other fabric. So, you know, it's fine, it's fine. If we had a sewing machine that could do 3 motion, then we would. But what I can feel is I can feel that I've only got 1 layer, so that makes life slightly easier for me. And if we look in there, I can see that I've got this space to sew. Now, I really don't know if you would be happy to actually put this under the machine, like that. Yeah, and then it's cool. It's not going anywhere. It really just depends on you. I've never had a sewing machine leak oil or anything like that, but it's whatever you're happy with. Okay, so I'm at the bottom. I can trim this if I wanted to. If not, I could come back and trim the lot. I'll have to make sure that this is long enough. And then I'm going to go back to the top again. So, okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be back with you just to sew the ribbons on the side. Now, yeah, I've given myself maybe 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches between lines. I suppose you at least need 5 lines down, okay? So however big the child you're doing it for, then you can sort of work that out. And then it's organic, it's not a precision thing, so you know, don't worry if you don't have to measure it, okay? You just have to make sure that you've done some lines down. Or not. The eye will say that's a pumpkin. Alright, I'm pausing. Hi, so, oh no. Lovely. And I'm going to go down once more, push that through there. Trim that off. I know, it feels a bit like a war when you do something like this, but it's fine. It's fine. Check my path is clear. And there I go. So, I've done my stripes now. All I need to do is pump it up a bit. Now you'll see what I mean when I get it out in a minute. So, this is what it looks like from the front and the back and the inside. Now ideally what we need to do, and it really depends on the age of the child here. If it was, say, a 7-year-old, then yeah, you could just get a piece of ribbon or a scrap and then bunch it up like that so that it puckers. If it was a younger child, then you know you can't really have these sort of straps sort of around. So yeah, a bit difficult. But as mine's for a 7-year-old, then I can get away with just going a couple of stitches on either end, and I could even just hand sew that. So if I put a pin in it for now, which you couldn't give a child any age a garment still with pins in it, and I did exactly the same on the other half. But then some pumpkins are elongated, so maybe we just accept it. There we go. Oh, I thought I got all the loose threads. So where I pin it is where I was planning to sew it. I'm going to turn it inside out now just to show you what I meant by that. So that it will hang down a bit more bulbously. So yes, but either way, we are kind of there. Oh, it looks really good from the back. So that's what I'm going to do. Where those pins were, I'm going to just stitch those in, and I might even make them a bit shorter. So yes, there we are, a very simple pumpkin outfit that only involves straight stitch. Just don't panic. And if you wanted to make it a little bit more complicated, then we could leave open an armhole and fold it over again, stitch the top and stitch the top, cut an armhole and then fold it over again. Okay. So I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween. My name is Fiona from Weekly Sewing Bee. Thank you so much for watching.